I'm privileged to introduce our National President Flow, Mrs. Jahnabi. She is Director of JTI Group and 37th National President of Flow. Her focus on generating sustainable livelihood opportunities for the economic empowerment of women. Jahnabi is a co-founder of 2 National Tourism Award winning companies, Jungle Travels India and Assam Bengal Navigation Company under JTI Group. Her companies offer a wide range of travel and hospitality services, including boutique river cruising and specialized tours. Tea and textiles are other areas of interest. All of these are aimed at empowering young people's livelihoods, especially women and their communities. I request Jahnabi to start the afternoon's discussion with our guest Sabyasachi Mukherjee and Pinky Reddy. Over to you, Jahnabi.
I will need a minute. I've just had a conversation with Sabyasachi's office. They need another 5 minutes. I think we can start with Pinky and Priya and Jahnabi. Sabyasachi will join in 5 minutes.
Jahnabi.
Want me to start or shall we wait for Sabyasachi?
I think we can start. They've asked us to start. Something has come up. He just needs 5 minutes.
Sure. Would Pinky like to start or should I start?
You please start, Jahnabi.
I start? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. If you wait for 5 minutes, should we have some other conversation? Because I would have finished before Sabyasachi arrives in that case.
Okay, yeah. So we will ask Priya Tanna to talk to.
Yeah, Tanna, will you take over for now, please?
Come on, Priya, we both can take over.
No, then we won't even miss Sabya. If you and I are talking,
he won't get a chance to talk.
That's exactly what he told me. He says, if me and Pinky are talking, then there's going to be more than enough conversation.
He's used to us talking.
Something till Sabya comes about. My friend Pinky, I know all of you all have beautifully introduced her as Aparna Reddy, and you've introduced her as an entrepreneur, and you've introduced her as a humanitarian who does amazing work with kids. But I have to confess that for us at Vogue India, we have a new title for her. She's our mascot. The Olympics has a mascot, the Asian Games have a mascot, and Vogue India has a mascot, and that's Pinky. So Pinky's journey with me goes all the way back to the launch of Vogue, which is now 13 years ago.
In Udaipur.
In Jodhpur.
In Jodhpur, sorry.
Interesting.
And I remember at that point I hadn't really met her, and I've been in mainstream journalism all my life. Like I've been in this industry now for 27 years, and I had never really met Pinky, but I'd heard about her. And then when I met her, Arjun's like, if Pinky, Arjun, who was my publisher then, and he was like, if Pinky blesses this, if Pinky's on our side, this will flow, because she puts her heart and soul into everything, as if everything she takes up matters a lot. And I'll never forget that about her. The help she has extended to us in us setting up our first Vogue wedding show, to over the years of having been her friend and a work colleague. Anything you will ask of her, if she can't do it, she'll say no. But if she does it, she'll put 800% into it. And
okay.
that's
yeah. Let me tell you something about the Jodhpur event. It was the most beautiful launch ever. The first time I saw in the palace. You had the most. You remember the models walk down the stairs and
yes,
and you will not believe it. I wore a Sabyasachi. I carried a Sabyasachi sari to wear for the Vogue launch. Yeah. Okay, that time Sabyasachi was not the Sabyasachi now, but it was a Georgette sari with some sequins. I said, okay, let me wear that. Look nice. And you have to hear the story. It's a really funny story. And then I always carry my hand luggage, and I just had this one sari, which my grandmom always says, carry 2 pieces. What if something happens? Sometimes we don't listen to elders, right? So I got ready. I was going to go get ready, and then I realized when I was wearing the pallu, there was this huge stain on the sari. I like, oh my God, how am I going to go for this big event wearing this stained sari? Then I said, wait, let me do. That's all fashion is all about. It's what you wear and how you wear and what attitude you wear. So I just said, wait, for one wedding, I remember wearing a Bengali kind of a sari. So I just took the sari and I just wrapped around like nobody's business. And it turned out to be pretty good. I got a lot of compliments for it. And nobody realized that the mission was to hide the stain. So I'm amazed that you actually brought up the event, and it's, I have an amazing story. And then I wore a Sabya sari. I've known Sabya from the time when he just started his career from Hyderabad Crafts Council.
With that, on that note, let's all welcome Mr. Sabyasachi. He's here with us now.
Okay.
Welcome, Mr. Sabyasachi.
I can't see Sabya. He's lost in the sea of beautiful ladies. Sabya, where are you?
Yeah, we could hear him just a minute ago.
There he is.
Yes, there he is.
Okay, I have to still find him. I feel like this is a maze and I have to find the one man. There he is. Bravo.
Hello.
Hello, Sabya.
I think he's on mute. Yes.
Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Hello.
Hello.
Good afternoon, everyone.
We are thrilled we can see you, hear you, and your network is able, and there is no cyclone in your city. So we are very happy.
I was just praying that my network would not let me down.
It's the ladies' land, you see. We'll see to that it works. You're around with all the ladies. So Sabya, I was just telling Priya that I went for the Vogue launch 13, 14 years ago to Jodhpur, and I wore your sari.
And so did Priya.
So did Priya. Okay.
Yes.
Mr. Jahnabi to start the session.
Yes. Shall I go to that? Okay.
Jahnabi is our national president, Sabya.
This is a new world for me. I think after this, none of us will want to travel anymore.
That's it. This is going to be the story.
Absolutely.
So good afternoon, everyone, and namaste, Hyderabad. Miru ila unnanu.
Thank you.
I don't know. Hyderabad, you hold a unique position in India as the capital of 2 states. You are the melting pot of cultures and the center for the Oriental culture of painting, handicraft, jewelry, literature, dialect, and clothing. You are called the city of pearls. The Golconda diamonds from your mines have become a generic word for great wealth, and the gemologist classification of 2A level diamonds. You are listed in UNESCO Creative City Network as the city of gastronomy, and the only city listed from India. I could go on. For each chapter that I now visit virtually, I like to imbibe some understanding of it. So in the new normal, the learning continues for me and makes me marvel at the wonder that is our India. Our 14 chapters from our 17 chapters from the length and breadth of our country makes me truly proud to represent as the national president of FLOW, the women's wing of FICCI. As the 37th national president of FLOW and the first from the Northeast, I am particularly delighted to welcome Sabyasachi Mukherjee from Eastern India, who has made the world sit up and notice this prodigious talent from our country. Sabyasachi, you've always been a champion of conscious luxury. You rose from nowhere with no connections and no capital to set up shop with 3 artisans from your Barsati in your parents' home in Kolkata 20 years ago. Today, those 3 people are still with you in your parents' home, I understand, and you have added 2,700 people to your global business. With your design philosophy of personalized imperfection of the human mind, you brought out the essence of our khadi and the labor of love, handcrafted by our artisans, to the international platform then. And now, in COVID times, the world looks to you yet again for what you have always championed. Your stand on sustainability and of conscious consumption, and what luxury stands for is what we all are here to listen to. Pinky Reddy, FLOW past president. I remember the spectacular show you put up in the Faluknuma Palace for us when you were chairperson of FLOW Hyderabad. It's always a pleasure to have you back with us. Priya, Tanna, editor-in-chief, Vogue India. With a deep understanding of the fashion world, we are looking forward to the nuances you will bring out in this very pertinent topic today, the future of luxury and the role of Make in India. My congratulations to Flow Hyderabad chairperson, Usha Rani Mane and her team for putting this together for our 17 chapters listening in today. I would like to ask Sabyasachi just one question and then let Priya Tanna take over. So Sabyasachi, do tell us, what does luxury truly mean to you?
You know, luxury can mean many things for many people. For me, you know, I don't know if it's a politically correct statement to make, but the fact that I have time for myself, I can cook, I can garden, I can probably sleep in the afternoon and catch up on yoga. The last 3 months I have had the privilege of being in the lap of luxury, because I think for us, luxury really is the essence of time, because we have everything in the world, but we don't really have much time for ourselves. And I think I've just understood that anything that's time bound is going to be luxury in the future.
Priya's taking over. Over to you now, Priya. Thank you for that.
Thank you so much. Thanks, everyone. Yeah. And I'm going to kick off I'm truly excited to be here, and I really enjoy the idea that I'm going to get to speak to two industry veterans on subjects that are very, very close to my heart, luxury and Make in India. And I'll go with ladies first. So my first question really is for you, Pinky. Ms. Phookan asked Sabya what's his idea of luxury, and luxury is time for him. What is luxury really for you? What does it mean for you?
Mute.
You're on mute, Pinky.
Okay, now. What true luxury? Since we're talking about fashion, for me, luxury is picking up a phone. Suppose I set my eyes on some particular fashion, a particular bag, and nobody's able to find it. And I just make a phone call and saying, I want it. Can I get it? Can I afford it? And if I can, that is called my luxury.
So it's accessibility for you.
It's luxury, absolutely.
Now I know the story of all those Hermes bags that you have, Pinky. I know what went into them.
No, there's a lot of hard work sometimes.
Coming to you, Sabya, I know you've spoken about luxury being time, and I know you've spoken about how you're enjoying this downtime, but talk to me a little bit and talk to everybody a little bit about how this lockdown and this pandemic has influenced and changed your thought process. Are you thinking differently about your craft? Are you thinking differently about your business? What's going on in your mind?
Priya, we have, as a brand, we have always been very conscious about many things. I don't think post-pandemic, the brand needs to do things differently. But what we need to do is we definitely need to understand priorities, because a lot of our priorities will shift beyond fashion, beyond the so-called dreams of luxury. Because, once in a lifetime or once in every 100 years, we are posed with a situation where one has to choose between life and livelihood. While shops all over the country are opening, we have resolutely kept our shops shut, because while money is important, while it is important to conduct business, it's important to grow. I think there's nothing that's more important than human life. And, post the pandemic, a lot of people are going to really question what they really need in their lives. And as a brand, we have worked very hard to be able to create value for our customers. And value comes with many things. It's not just a price point quotient, but it's about price point, it's about service, it's about giving people where the intangibles are far greater than the tangibles, then giving them things that are going to be timeless, giving them things that will last forever. A lot of these ladies who own my clothes will tell you that, I was trying to do a retrospective because I didn't have a great archive. I spoke to a few ladies in India, and I asked them if they would sell me back their wardrobe that I'd made for them 20 years ago at 4 to 5 times the price. and every single one of them refused. They said that, we treasure our clothing because we can wear them again and again. And I think post the pandemic, what we are going to do is we are going to work harder and harder and harder to deliver the promise of investment shopping for women. Because I think right now, after the pandemic, it's not that people are going to stop shopping. There is going to be exuberance that's going to come back in a very big way. It happened to Dior after the war, when they came up with a new look. But I think people are going to be mindful about what they're going to consume, uh, and people are just going to buy things that mean something to them, rather than just uh, shopping that's going to be dispensable. In the sense that, I think people are going to buy less, but they're going to buy things that matter to them.
I couldn't agree more, actually, Sabya. And actually, I remember asking you this question in the Insta Live I did with you for Vogue India, where I said, I've been talking to a whole bunch of designers and everybody's only asking me one question: how is Sabya managing? And I feel like, so are there any challenges that are unique to you during this period, Sabya? Has there been anything that, has been hard for you to come to terms with? Has there been anything that's conflicting, or has there been anything that you need to now focus on even more?
Priya, I think maintaining your ecosystem, because you see, when we work with a team, we've been families for over 20 years. I'm not a very social person, so the people who work with me are people that I have been working with for years. Like I said, that the tailors who came and stayed in my barsati on top of my parents' house are still working for us. Many of them don't even do any clothes for the brand. They just stay with my parents because it makes my parents feel safer. They built a community around them. They're like family. We have 2,700 people, Priya, and till the end of June, we have paid everybody 100% salaries, and there were no layoffs. There were no price cuts, no pay cuts. Every single one of them, whether they were a driver or whether they were a cleaner or whether they were somebody from an IT, whether they were important in the ecosystem or not important in the ecosystem, we've paid every single one of them. But you can't do that forever, and it's going to be heartbreaking, because at some point of time we will have to announce pay cuts. Maybe people will have to be laid off, because every business at some point of time has to start hibernating if the pandemic goes on for too long. Because you can be good to people temporarily, but you also need to be faithful to a brand that has generated incomes for people over 20 years. And if the brand survives, people can always come back. So it's a choice between how to continue to sustain lives, and yet at the same time choose to kind of plunge through this pandemic. This is going to become the biggest problem, not just for us. I think it's for every single industry. Most of the ladies here, everybody, whether it's publishing, whether it's automobiles, whether it's, except for people who are in the vaccine industry or people who are in FMCG, where they're doing food essentials. Most people who, and especially fashion, which is right now such a non-essential commodity, it's going to be so difficult for us to kind of keep the businesses alive. And I believe there would be a lot of young designers who would be probably joining in. I want to say to you that, today as we speak, we read about Sushant Singh Rajput, and one of the biggest problem that I feel right now is going to be one of mental health.
Absolutely.
Because so many people are going to be so devastated. We didn't need this bad news this time. So many people are going to, everybody's going to fear that I'm probably the only one who's losing out. But I want to tell people that please don't have FOMO, because we are all in it together. And, this is one major ship that's sinking with all of us together. We'll all be in it. So I don't want people to take losses personally. I don't want people to feel that I failed my people or I failed my industry, because this is quite beyond the control of anybody. And everybody has to understand that it's always going to be life above livelihood.
Absolutely, and honestly, I feel like it's global. There is not one person, not one industry, not one segment of society that's going to be unaffected by what's happening. And as you said rightfully, we're all in this together, and we really now more than ever have to help each other out. My question next is to you, Pinky, really. You know, I've always seen you as somebody who is a great purveyor and a discerning buyer of fashion and style and all of that. Have you had any time during this lockdown to re-examine your relationship with style and fashion? Do you, like Sabya said, people will not necessarily want mindless things. They will want things of meaning. They will want something that's investment, something that will go the distance. Do you want different things from fashion now than you did before this pandemic?
Definitely, definitely. I think the last 3 months, I think everyone's mind has started working, rethinking. I feel the world is rebooting. I think, somebody up there, the nature has said, now it's time you reboot because world was going in a supersonically over speed. I think things we needed to rethink and start planning ourselves. So having said that, and when Sabya said that, business has to move on, the last 1 month, I got so many people calling me, say, can you put in a word to Sabya because I want to get married only in a Sabya outfit or wearing Sabya jewelry. So it feels so good. See, life has to go on, Priya. I mean, there's so many weddings. This year it's unbelievable the amount of people whom I know, close friends, their children are getting married. And I know they can't invite hundreds of people. They have to invite only 50 people. But then for life, you're going to have your photograph of your marriage, right? So every girl, every boy wants to be dressed in their favorite designer. So I think things are going to change a bit. Even for me, one thing I did through this lockdown is I just uncluttered myself. I cleaned up my whole walk-in closet, and I just felt, we need to change our look, just mix match things and pick up things which are really what you need. Because the lives are going to be, for next 2 years, I'm telling you, life is going to be very different. I think it's life of webinars and Zooms. That's what it's going to be. I don't think we're going to be able to meet physically. So I think we should take it easy. But having said that, I think, one needs to have the little retail therapy to make you feel a little good. So maybe you'll just, maybe I'm not going to go buy OTT clothes, but maybe you'd go and buy something more casual, simple. You need to be dressing for yourself, not for others. That's what is very important.
I always say this actually, Pinky, that I feel out of the pandemic, people will not shop less. They will shop differently.
You're going to shop
differently. They will shop better. They will make wiser purchases. They will look for greater value in what they buy. They will want pure joy out of what they buy. And I think even 15 years down the line, when Mr. Mukherjee asks people to give back their bridal saris, they will not give it back to him.
Absolutely, absolutely. No, because one has to do it, think and do what you have to spend.
Yeah. Sabya, I'm going to come to you and I'm going to talk to you about a subject that's very, very close to your heart and very close to my heart. And we've had many, many conversations around this. And in fact, you just touched upon it right now when you said that world over, whenever there's a crisis, whenever there's a calamity, whenever there's we've had a pandemic after I don't know how many decades, but fashion sort of rises and reflects the movement, reflects the cultural movement, reflects the times we are living in. And I feel that out of this major crisis, a cultural movement will come out and we will pivot. We will pivot as consumers, we will pivot as retailers, we will pivot as publishing houses. What do you think, Sabyasachi, this movement is going to be about and what will it bring in for this country?
Pinky and Priya, I think when we start introspecting, we start actually analyzing about our sins and our virtues. And we just realize that, I'll tell you a small story. I survived a small recession when Lehman Brothers had crashed, I think in 2008. I might have got the year wrong. And there was a friend in Netherlands who was a big advertising guy. And I used to look up to him because he was a very close friend of mine, very well spoken, very well read. And he calls me in the middle of the night and he starts crying. And he says, can I talk to you? I needed to talk to somebody. I said, yeah, sure. And he said, I feel so useless. And I said, you are saying that you feel useless? He said, yeah, because, my world is right now in front of me, in front of my closet. I have hundreds of Gucci suits. I have 2 cars, but, I just can't pay for the mortgage of my house anymore. But when you look at India, the West has always been a country that has done consumption from a consumption point of view. But India has always done consumption from an investment point of view. We might not have, we might not have a pair of Gucci shoelaces, but we'll always have 2 gold bangles in our wrist, and we'll always have a little bit of money saved for our children's education. I think what will happen is the world will get a little schizophrenic. There will be people who will go into, we will be divided into a big Y. A lot of people who will stop believing in tomorrows, and they will start doing conspicuous consumption. So you will see exuberance coming back with the ferocity, but then there will be a greater group of people who will want to slow down, who will want to reassess their lives, and who will want to drive value out of many things. Let's for instance talk about jewelry. While we consider jewelry investment, we rarely consider this as an indulgence, because most women buy jewelry and it's always stored in their lockers, and they never get to wear it. They wear it only once in a while. But when you buy a luxury car, or you build a great house, you are enjoying that luxury every single day of your life. Homes are going to be important than nothing else. I think the home industry is going to become very, very big. And so I think the most important thing about luxury is going to be about what you can use, what is going to be functional, what will help you derive joy every day of your life. And it's all going to be about sustainability. It's all going to be about quality. And I think what had happened before the arrogance, before the pandemic, human beings were very arrogant. I think the pandemic has brought the whole world to its knees. We have just realized that we really have no power. All it took was a small virus. And look at us. We have all the technology in the world. People are going to space. You are building bigger homes. You have larger industries. Your carbon footprints are becoming bigger and bigger and bigger. But all it took was a tiny unseen virus to take us all collectively down. I think the arrogance of man is going to be broken, and man will have to reassess his dreams all over again.
Sabya, what does this mean for the Make in India story? We've always spoken about how India is home to the most exquisite craftsmanship, the most exquisite textiles and all of that. But you and I have also spoken about how this period will lead to a new rise, a sort of a wave of Indian fashion nationalism. Tell me a little bit more about that. It's a really interesting concept.
Probably because we had colonial hangover, or we have been ruled by the West for a long time. A lot of our validations for a very long time has always come from the West. India did not have an Indian dream for the longest time, because all India did, a lot of affluent India lived on the American dream. But America has fallen, and look at how it's fallen. And today, as the American dream crumbles, and there is going to be a new dream that's going to rise up, which is going to be the Indian dream. A little bit of that had happened during the 70s, when the flower power and the hippie movement had happened, because I think people are going to be fed up of mindless capitalism, and a little bit of socialism will creep in. People are going to want to make their lives and their values better. And as that happens, a lot of people, especially from the West, are going to look at countries with deeper cultural connects, with spirituality as a new way of expressing their lives. And I think the Indian dream will rise, not just for Indians, but for the whole world in general. It is something that had to happen. What I think is happening to the world, Priya, in many ways, is, I don't want to do spiritual hocus pocus, but I would say that, in many ways, it is karmic. And luxury at one point of time had rightly belonged to India, because, if you look at the history of a civilization, if you look at what has happened in this land, I think slowly and slowly the entire footprints of global luxury will start traversing back to India. India will no longer become just a manufacturer for the West, but India will start creating super brands that are going to define global luxury all over the world. It's going to happen to India. It's going to happen to Africa. It's going to happen to countries which have great organic wealth, great natural wealth, and countries which have tremendous amount of history. No amount of marketing and no amount of politics can stop that, because today, you see, earlier what used to happen, consumption used to happen because of how we used to politically motivate people through marketing. But right now, it's the consumer who's going to decide what needs to be made and how much of it needs to be made and how much they will consume.
Absolutely. I think, earlier it was the other way around. The retailers would dictate and the consumers would buy. And I think now everybody needs to put their ear to the ground and try to understand what is it that the consumer wants. We have to communicate differently. We have to market differently. Pinky, do you agree with what Sabya says about this new wave of fashion nationalism?
Absolutely.
For example, will it change the way you dress? Will you dress differently?
No, I mean, I'm not going to change my way of dressing for sure. I wear a lot of Indian clothes, and I think I'm going to definitely going to encourage and help a lot of our weavers and people who are doing a lot of work from a grassroots and are from our homegrown fashion. I'd rather buy a lovely woven shirt in comparison to a YSL. I mean, why not? Why not? Because I think we're doing some great work in India too. And I just bought one kurta. It was so beautiful. It was some designer from Amritsar. This boy, I think I met him during one of my flow trips. He messaged me saying, "Ma'am, can you please buy one of my outfits?" And and it was beautiful, like mull cotton. So I picked up one for him, picked up for me, for my daughter-in-law, and it's so sweet. He sent them with matching masks.
Aww.
So sweet, and I just thought, let me help him out.
That's amazing.
So I would definitely encourage a lot of small designers who need help more than anybody else.
I have to jump in and say something. So my first ever exhibition as a young student was in Hyderabad with the Crafts Council of Hyderabad. And Pinky Reddy was my first customer.
I bought a sari for $5,000.
I know, I owe her a lot. There was a time when we tried to do a fashion show outside Hyderabad, and the organizer ran away with a lot of money, and I had 10 models with me and we had nowhere to go. She opened up a hotel for us to stay.
Do you remember?
I do. And I just want to say that I've watched Pinky champion designers all across the country. And it's very funny because every time I meet Pinky at her hotel in Hyderabad, she always has a scissor in her hand. And I say, where are you going? She said, I'm going to inaugurate an exhibition. That's a good talk.
Before you came on, I called her the mascot for Vogue India.
That's my profession.
But sorry, I just got lost at that point where, Pinky, you said a 5,000 rupees Sabyasachi sari. I just couldn't go past that.
Can you believe it?
I just cannot. I clearly bypassed that era.
I can have an exhibition of all of my Sabya collection.
So coming back to you, Sabya, actually, how does this Make in India, India pride, be Indian, buy Indian philosophy work with your H&M collaboration? Because it's a global collaboration. So how do these two sensibilities sort of fit?
So Pinky and Priya, when I did H&M, I was very clear about something, that I would use Indian crafts, a lot of Indian textiles, and also me and H&M had kind of agreed together that close to 90% of the collection would be made in India. And this is a big made in India collaboration because it's going out to about 70 to 80 windows all over the world. And the look is very Indian. And as a first, and I'm a tough negotiator on contracts, as a first, H&M is also doing a Sabyasachi sari. When I first proposed to them, they were quite alarmed because they said that, listen, we are not really in the business of doing ethnic clothing, but H&M is doing a Sabyasachi sari. I've done the same with L'Oreal also. Prior to signing contracts with them, I said that I want Aishwarya to wear a sari when she's endorsing a L'Oreal lipstick. And so it was a great collaboration between Paris and India because it was shot in front of the Eiffel Tower, but Aishwarya was wearing a sari. in everything that I do, whether it's Asian Paints, whether it's H&M, whether it's Pottery Barn, whether it's Christian, whether it's Thomas Good, every single collaboration I do, I want it to be proudly made in India. And I want it to be about India because I am an Indian designer. If I don't address who I am, I'm a nobody.
Absolutely. And again, once again, there is scope for the 5,000 rupee sari with H&M. So see, my dream is turning true. Sabya, I'm going to actually pick up on a question that some of the ladies have posed. Ms. Usha Poonawala has asked, with the exodus of the migrant labor, how do you feel the fashion industry is going to cope since it is such a labor-intensive industry?
You know, many years ago, Muzaffar Ali had started a movement called Dwar Pe Rozi, where he said, rather than bringing the labor to your doorstep, go to his doorstep. You know, when I talk about migrant labor, people only think about them migrating, but there are so many things like food habits,
Right.
like a lot of most of the guys who manufacture jewelry with the best brands in the country are all Bengalis. They are called Babus. They do the best filigree and they do the best diamond setting. And they work with a lot of organizations which are vegetarian, but essentially Bengalis are non-vegetarian people. And so food habits become a problem, language becomes a barrier. We take so many things for granted, but just imagine sex. You can't go back home to your wives and children. You can't see your children grow up. You can't see them. So I always say that if your craftsman is happy, and if he's happier in his own habitat, his performance levels, his dedication will grow up, and craft will sustain at the highest level. So I think rather than bringing migrant labor back to, at least for fashion, back to cities, I think what designers should start doing is start setting up factories closer to the doorstep of the migrant labor. And if you look at the situation of the migrant labor in this country, many of them are heartbroken. Many of them are tired. Some of them are angry. Some of them are devastated. Many of them have fear. I am very worried that if fashion, if the government, if the textile industry, if all of us don't come together, we will lose a lot of them to real estate. We lose a lot of them to agriculture. And, I've said, Pinky and Priya, that our craft is paramparik. So the father teaches the son teaches the grandson, and so on. And I would like to say, I saw a movie called The Help, where they said, courage can skip a generation. But I have a rejoinder to that, and I say, courage can skip a generation, but craft cannot. Because if craft in India skips a generation, craft will become obsolete. And India, while we are doing fabulously well with IT and everything, India has not been recognized worldwide as an IT. Brand India is not about IT. Brand India has been about agriculture. Brand India has been about craft, has been about textiles. There are many soft skills that we have that have set us uniquely apart. The French have been able to realize that about themselves very well, and they have been able to market things like food, perfumes. I think India has to take a very hard look at being able to preserve its soft skills so that the identity of India remains unique in the global market.
Right. But Sabya, as a designer, what do you feel? What are the practices and business moves you can adopt that will safeguard the karigars in a big way? We need to safeguard them. Like you're saying that you fear that they may go into agriculture and all of that. And if we skip a generation, then it's obsolete. What can the industry do? What would a designer like yourself do to safeguard the karigars?
Okay, if any of you go into Sabyasachi official, and if you go into the comment section, a very popular and a common comment is, "Oh my God, why is he so expensive?" It's almost become like a default setting in my comment book. Everybody says, "Why is he so expensive?" I would like to say we are expensive because we put that money to be able to grow back end. It is that money, it is that profit that goes into plowing back into people's livelihoods to make sure that we have been able to pay 2,700 labor for 3 months in a pandemic without a price cut. The only way to safeguard your Karigar is to be able to create demand and sustainable demand. The only way to be able to create sustainable demand is to be able to make people understand why they are paying the price that they're paying. Because people only see a product, they don't see what goes on behind it, they don't see the R&D, they don't see the money that you make to create communication, to create brand. And as a business, what we are doing is we are creating more brand stories that talk about manufacturing. Because once people understand the level of craft that goes into making a product, they're happier to pay top dollars for it. And if they do that, then you can use that to sustain a community at a very high level. I think the best way to be able to safeguard your Karigar is to be able to communicate and to be able to educate and rise up the level of consciousness of your consumers.
Right. Right. So let's talk a little bit about sustainability, because that's really a key subject for us as well. As a consumer, let's talk purely as a consumer. Mm-hmm. I think there is this impression, or at least people believe, that sustainable clothes are expensive. Mm-hmm. It's that the price point is much, much higher. Mm. How does one combat this? That's my first question on it.
Like I said, the first thing is education. People don't just need to be educated about just a product. They also need to be educated about quality. And like quality is like knowledge, which is a one-way street. I don't drink alcohol, but I know a lot of my friends who drink wine. They say that once you get used to drinking good quality wine, you can't drink bad quality wine at all. You'd rather not drink wine. I think once you start delivering quality, your customer will start shopping in a more conscious manner. And this has always been an Indian problem. We always get a cheap thrill out of doing cheap shopping. And sometimes we buy things that we don't need just because it's on sale or because it's cheap. And I think that once people, the most important thing, Priya, about sustainability is the onus is not really only on the manufacturer. The onus is largely lies with the consumer.
Absolutely.
The consumer has to stop. The consumer has to say, I will not consume more than this. Once the consumer starts consuming less to be able to maintain top lines, manufacturers have to consume better and better quality. So, I think that if, sustainability is a manufacturer and a consumer partnership, and the government needs to step up, and the government needs to create policies on sustainability where they give probably tax benefits to companies which are using sustainable practices, which are using less of carbon footprint. Khadi, for example, is a fabric that we extensively used. When we work with Benares, sometimes we do yarns which are hand spun. We try to use a lot more hand so that there is no electricity that's being used, there's no machinery that's being used, so that your carbon footprints go down. All of this slows down production. Because it slows down production, costs become higher. But if the government stepped in, because I think the government should really, really, really help in promoting textiles in India, because this is something that differentiates the country from the rest of the world. And I'm not saying that only because I'm a fashion designer. I would like to say that about Indian food, Indian music, Indian art and architecture.
Sabya, have I lost you?
He's frozen. Priya, let me add one thing more to this.
Yeah.
I think people also have become very smart. Consumers, Sabya, I must just adding, you suddenly froze, and I just wanted to add this. The last couple of years, the amount of exhibitions have just mushroomed all over. Every week, there are like some 3 exhibitions. There are a lot of people like, oh no, this is junk. So people know which is good, they're not going to be taken for a ride. They're going to be buying good quality also. And people have become very conscious and become very smart. The awareness has increased tremendously because of Instagram, because of a lot of social media. And, I go, as you said, I go for so many ribbon cuttings and I see the body language. I can see the way people shop and they behave. there's a lot of change in people. The consumers have become very, very smart.
But Sabya, and I'll come back to you, Pinky, in a second. Sabya, what are the challenges you face personally with regards to developing sustainable practices? And in your mind, what is doable for a brand of your size?
Priya, the most important thing that we do, not many people know, one of the reasons why we don't go on sale is because we are very conscious about the amount we manufacture, quite like Chanel. We keep a very strong ear to the ground, and we see, if you go to any of my stores, right now, of course, we have changed the policy because of the pandemic, but you have to go and order a product. It's much like what you would do in a tailoring shop 10 or 15 years ago. You go and see a sample, you order a product, it's made to your size. So we create however much the demand is. We don't create more than what the demand is. It is a sustainable practice. But as the business becomes bigger and bigger and bigger, it is important for us to be able to educate our customer, which is one of the reasons why we spend so much money on advertising. Because when you spend money on advertising, I think, I'm one of the biggest advertisers with your magazine. And one of the reasons we advertise so much is not just because to establish Sabyasachi as a power brand, like how many people would like to believe, but to educate people about quality, to educate people about messaging, about what they should buy. And, when we talk about sustainability, a brand in India alone or a brand anywhere alone cannot create change. Change needs to be collective. It needs to be participation from all sectors of consumers and all sectors of manufacturing. It needs to be aided by the government heavily. The government should create subsidies for companies which are working on sustainability, because environmental issues are not one person's issue, it's the whole world's issue. I often joke with my friends in Delhi that, you all live in these big fancy houses, but your children still have to wear a mask and go to school because, environmental hazards are a big leveler. And I think people are slowly beginning to understand, earlier people used to be in denial about climate change, about sustainability. A lot of people still today are in denial about the situation with COVID.
Yes.
People are moving around like there's no pandemic that's happened in the world.
Yes.
But I think because the younger generation is watching and this is the first time they have faced a crisis, it is going to force people to become much more conscious than they used to be.
Right.
And because of this, I think sustainability is going to become a big champion.
Right. I'm going to pick up two questions, Sabya, for you. One is from Ms. Preeti Mittal, who's asked, would the designers worldwide source from India? Do designers worldwide source from India? And will sustainable clothing fashion influence the world? And I think you've sort of answered it, but anything you'd like to say about designers worldwide sourcing from us?
Two things. Firstly, sustainability is a journey. I don't think there is any company or any business that has become 100% sustainable.
Yes.
I think we have to improve as we go. And I want to tell you one more thing about sustainable business practices. In India, at one point of time, many businesses used to be sustainable because, sustainability works on basic principles of good business. I'm not talking about just environmental sustainability, but I'm talking about economic sustainability, social sustainability, cultural sustainability, because businesses in good old days used to be made with common sense. Right now, businesses are created out of data. And so I think we are going to go back into the old-fashioned way of conducting business. Sustainability is the way forward for the future, because businesses that are not going to be sustainable are going to be wiped out. They are not going to be wiped out because of just consumers. They're just going to be wiped out because they are going to be defunct. And no amount of advertising and greenwashing and making people believe that you're sustainable is going to help. Sustainability is not something that you wear as a badge of honor. It is a way of life that you imbibe every single day of your life to make sure that your business runs robust. And yes, more and more designers are going to start sourcing from India. I think there is already an anti-China movement that's happening worldwide. And people are also realizing that cheaper does not always necessarily mean better and does not mean useful.
Exactly.
As people are going to consume less, and people, one of the bigger stories is also going to be about authenticity. We have almost, privileged people have almost everything that they need. You don't need another car. You don't need another piece of jewelry. You don't need another piece of clothing. You don't definitely need another shoe, another handbag, another new lipstick or a nail polish shade. But but if you need something, you need something that's differentiated. And I like to believe that if people are going to consume now, knowing that their consumption is affecting somebody else's livelihood, if by their consumption some ecosystem is being maintained in some part of the world, people are going to just feel a lot more happier, because I call that responsible consumption. And responsible consumption is going to be the big future trend.
I don't think this is optional anymore. Here's what I really do feel is, at this stage, we think it's optional, but it's almost going to become a necessity. I mean, even as Vogue India, or as Vogue as a company that talks and sells fashion, we editors met in September to discuss that given the times we live in, we need to be reflective and mindful of it. And how do we really combat this? And we launched a campaign called Vogue Values, where we address and take on subjects like sustainability, diversity, inclusivity. These are not just catchwords. These are not just hashtags. These aren't just trending topics of the moment. They are pretty much here to stay and to influence the way we dress, the way we shop, and all of that. Pinky, I actually wanted to ask you a question here, that as a corporate, coming from one of the biggest and most illustrious corporate families, what is the role you think corporates can play in this? In championing sustainability, in working with Indian designers? I feel like there have been a few corporates that have integrated with Indian designers to help scale up, but I also feel that there is a lot that can be done. It's not enough, hasn't been done yet. So what do you feel the role a corporate can play?
Okay, let me tell you, just make it easy. Like when you say corporate, there's so many sectors of businesses. Okay, we are in hospitality, and hospitality is in a really bad shape. We are in aviation. Aviation is in a bad shape. So I'm saying, I think, businesses like an ITC or the Tatas, who have businesses, they can help further. See, like the businesses we are in, all itself is struggling to sustain themselves, right? So that's the issue. But saying that, for like a lot of uniforms in the airport or in the hotels, maybe I will start looking for getting, making use a lot of textiles, woven, Indian. That's the only way we can help.
Correct.
Like an ITC will be a much more, they can help furthermore in fashion. Right? So I'm just being very honest.
Absolutely. That's the...
And we're also having, I was on another a webinar with the CM of Telangana, and I was telling him the same. I said government needs to help these sectors too. Aviation, hospitality, and all is we're not getting any help. Right? So I think everybody has to go through this together. As Sabya said, we're all in this huge ship, and we're all sailing together. The whole world is together.
Right. I'm going to pick up two other questions before I move on to my question. One is from Ms. Smriti Puri, who has asked, does Sabya see a price correction since luxury also has a huge aspirational clientele?
When you do price correction, you need to understand why do you do price correction. If you're already overpriced and you can't justify why that price has been created, price supports many things. It supports a lot of backend that the consumer does not see. If there is a gap where, what more than price correction, what people need to do is people need to realign their profitability. I think as the world is going towards many formulas about universal basic income, we are talking about the fact that does wealth need to be hoarded by just a small group of individuals? I think the larger question is not really about price correction. It should actually be about siphoning of profits. Correct. I think companies which are using the profits to be able to do greater good, like, we use, and I can say this openly today, and it could be checked by any of my balance sheets. As the owner of my company, I take very little money back home because all the money that we make is plowed back into the business to create larger businesses, to be able to advertise, to be able to get more people, to be able to create, we have, my HR is very conscious about creating more and more jobs. We have a mandate that we are going to increase our, what do I say? We are going to increase our employment by about 15 to 20% every year because West Bengal is struggling with industry, and I want to be able to champion the cause of textile and cottage industry in West Bengal. And so it is I think what every entrepreneur should start saying is how much of profits do we really need for ourselves and how much of it can be used for greater good, because sometimes price is important to create sustainability. And if there is a gap where people think that you need to correct it, you should, because at the end of the day, the consumer is very smart. When a consumer buys a product, they buy a product for the value that the product represents. It is not just dictated by a price tag. It is dictated by what a customer feels. If the customer feels, when you buy an Hermes bag, and why is an Hermes bag different from any other bag? Because it's not just about the quality of the bag, but also the values that the bag represents. And a customer would never ever come back and buy a product again and again if they did not think that the value was correct.
Correct. My next question to you, Sabya, is from...
Sorry, Priya. I wanted to say that one needed to do value correction more than price correction.
Sorry. My next question to you is from Ms. Ananya Simlai, who has said, what do you think, she wants to know, what do you think are the most important skills for a buyer?
For a buyer?
Mm-hmm.
I think for a buyer, it is important to be able to understand, are you talking about a buyer as a consumer or as a buyer for fashion, like a buyer for a buying house?
A retailer, a buyer for a buying house.
For a buying house. So talk about stories that are sustainable, talk about stories that have authenticity. What happens is that, more and more people are buying things that are replaceable. They're only buying things that are versions of each other. I think you should buy less, but buy things which have more authentic stories. Buy a brand for something that it represents.
Yes.
Apart from it just becoming a cheap clothing solution, because that strategy is not going to work anymore. People are not going to buy cheap clothes anymore. They are just going to buy something that they need. And what you need is authenticity. So I compare it to a spice rack. So, if you need mustard, you can't replace it with turmeric.
Yeah.
So if somebody is creating turmeric A, don't create turmeric B. Create mustard.
Correct. I'm going to, since I have both of y'all, and both of y'all together embody this one word for me, which is weddings. You, Sabya, of course, make the most beautiful bridal wear, and you are Mr. Baajaa bride. And Pinky, I mean, what would weddings be without you? You are the mascot of the wedding industry as well. You throw and host the most beautiful weddings that one ever talks about. People just wait for a year to talk. You finish talking about a wedding you have hosted for a year, and then there's another wedding in your family.
Thank God I only have 2 kids. I can't afford more weddings.
So really my question to both of y'all is about the wedding industry. Pinky, to you, what do you feel this will mean for the weddings of the future? Do you actually think people will scale down? Do you actually feel the glamour, the drama, the largeness of the weddings will be affected, will be impacted?
Surely, I think at the moment, for sure, people are going to be scaling down. Not that they want to, but they have to, because of safety for themselves and for around. And I think the next 2-3 years, I think once the vaccine comes in and things will 100%, my gut feel is things are going to get back with a bang. But I think people are going to be I think we need to have some patience, just hold on. And to add to this wedding, my daughter's wedding was 9 years old. I can't imagine. And Sabya and I created the most, that is one of his first weddings, which he did. We did our mehndi, and I remember we both were sitting in Delhi and we were just chatting, saying, what shall we do? He said, in Calcutta, in Bengal, it's a very Bengali thing that, for a mehndi, everybody wears the same sari and it's a family thing. So I said, hey, that's a great idea. I want to do that for my daughter's mehndi. But the only only mad part was I had 500 people. So we made 500 similar saris of different colors and everyone wore it. It was the most outstanding, and nobody could ever do something like that. And people are joking with me saying, I'm sure you're making everyone wear like a chorus of people and you'll be wearing something different. But I said, no, everyone wore, right from my mother to my mother-in-law to me, to everyone. So I think that's the drama. I'm sure they'll all come back. People will come up with some.
I feel so too. I feel like you can't keep a celebration down for too long. I feel Indians as a race, we love celebrating. We are celebratory people. I feel people will be mindful, and like you said, we all need patience right now. But I feel give us another year and a half for everything to settle down, and we'll be hearing about Pinky Reddy's next big extravaganza. You know.
I need to get married again to Sanjay because I don't have any more children to get married.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Go. No, but I'm just saying, just to add to this drama of weddings, this, as I said, a lot of friends' children are getting married and they're still thinking of getting the best clothes, best jewelry. And, you know, another friend of mine, her daughter's getting married, you know, to a movie star. And she's like, oh, that's even more the reason she needs to have a 50 people wedding because people are going to be, there's going to be a major spotlight on that wedding. And, you know, but she's doing the most. She's getting a event manager from Delhi and she's doing the works because for your child's wedding, you want to do it.
Yeah. I think you want to be the star of your life, right? That's the
absolutely.
Star of your own life.
Yeah, exactly. But then I was just saying, you know, when I was talking earlier about artisans and about our Make in India, as you know, I have a store called Lotus House, and I support a lot of artisans for that store. And now I've just realized, you know, I've been mindstorming with my team, and I think I'm just going to go online because I want them to have their livelihood. We support them fully.
Right.
How people to come and shop because if you're traveling and my shops are in the airport and you're going to be wearing those PP suits, you're not going to go shopping.
Yeah.
You know, but people are so paranoid about traveling.
I think online is a great way ahead, and that's going to actually be my next question. But I do want to ask you, Sabya, about the wedding industry. And you do, I don't know how many ghagras you've designed till now. I don't even know if there's a count.
No, I want Sabya to share with us the most amazing story I got to know yesterday about the curbside store shop of Sabya in New York. Come on, Sabya, say so.
Well, you know, I recently did a jewelry exhibition at Bergdorf Goodman and it went very well. But, you know, the last 10 days of the exhibition had to be stalled because the pandemic just raged into New York. And there was a couple that were getting married and they were in Mexico. I think they were traveling and the girl could not come for the exhibition. And she started hounding Bergdorf Goodman because she wanted to wear one of my jewelry for her engagement. So she and her fiance kept calling Bergdorf again and again and again. And I had no clue. So I was sitting in my home in my boxer shorts and my torn t-shirt with multiple holes on it, getting ready to go to bed. And I get a call from Bergdorf Goodman and I'm like, oh my God, what have I done now? And then they said that, you know what, Bergdorf was closed and they could not technically allow people to come into their store. So they made an exception. So I think the president and the vice president got together and they said, okay, fine, we will make this happen. It was wonderful of them. So they set up a small little Sabya shop on the curbside because, you know, they got trays of jewelry outside. They got their security guards, they got their private shoppers, they got a mirror. The girl came in a car. She stood outside Bergdorf Goodman on the streets of New York and she shopped for my jewelry and she went back home so that she could wear it for her engagement. And I think that's lovely. That kind of reverence really humbles me. But having said that, Priya, I want to come back to your question because I think it's very important that I address it because I recognize and reckon that ours is a big voice in the wedding industry. You know, I don't think weddings per se are going to tone down. They are toning down, like Pinky said, because they have to tone down. And like you correctly pointed out that, you know, for us, we are celebratory people. We love our song and our dance and our rituals and our mixing. It is such a big part of being Indian that you can't eradicate it. But I think people are also going to get a lot more conscious. And because I have a lot of women of power and privilege here who are listening to me, I would just like to make an appeal that next time there's a very big Indian wedding that's happening, please understand that a lot of people at grassroots level get a lot of jobs because of a celebration. So don't fly in your flowers from Bangkok, get in your flowers from India. Make sure that you don't have pastry chefs coming from Italy or Paris. Give jobs to your halwai people. Employ tent walas who do block printing. Get shanai walas in because they need jobs too. Get people to do your chandan and your rangolis and everything. Because I think the big way forward are going to be more and more and more purist cultural weddings, the way it used to be. And you never know, you have such influence that you can create the next singing superstar by giving an audience to a young singer from your neighborhood, or making a small halwai shop the next Haldiram Bhujia Wala. I think brand India can be created by patronage of weddings, because where else will you get such a potent audience? And it is our responsibility to make sure that we create jobs at grassroots levels by celebrating. Every time we celebrate, if people at grassroots levels can celebrate with us, if their children can go to school and they can lead a life of dignity, how beautiful will that be?
That was so beautifully put, Sabya. Bravo for saying that. And I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more that, we talk about, there was a really interesting thing an American designer said, that let's not forget that fashion is not a vain profession. Fashion is a humanitarian profession. It's one that employs so many people. It provides livelihoods to so many people, and especially in this country. And now more than ever, all of us cumulatively, as designers, as retailers, as buyers, as media, we really need to put the spotlight back on buying Indian, because we are Indian. And we need to support our people most. I'm actually going to take you to the next question.
Priya, I want to say something. You touched an emotional chord. I was almost going to cry when you said that, because I have a lot of anger inside me when people write off fashion. It is not a frivolous profession. I would like to say that without, I can only talk about Indian fashion because I'm an Indian fashion designer.
Yes.
I think we go to a lot of pains by creating jobs at grassroots level, and fashion is not an indulgent profession. You only see the outside, you only see the front end of fashion, but if you actually have the patience and the privilege of looking at the back end of fashion, you will realize what a humanitarian profession it is. I can't begin to think of any other profession that involves so much of humanitarian work than fashion does.
I couldn't agree more. So now on a lighter note, Miss Saryu Hegre wants to know, Sabya, when is the H&M collection hitting the stores?
I wish we could tell you when the pandemic was going to disappear. We are playing it by the year. We have a date that has been set. We are going to announce it. I don't think I have the authority to say that, because we have to be very, very mindful about when it comes out. And we are also working towards an online drop, and it is going to get released. If not now, maybe a little later, but the collection is going to get released.
And actually, I echo with what Ms. Sudha Mula would like to ask you, that since we're all talking on the subject of sustainability, she would like to know, when are you going to come up with office or simple wear clothes that people can wear every day? Come on, Sabya, make us a promise right now.
Priya,
I get the H&M, right?
Priya, I don't think I will do that. I'll tell you the reason why. Because every designer or everybody has a journey of their own. My journey is to be able to preserve craft in India at its highest level. And I'm very happy if inspiration from my clothing is taken down by corporates and watered down versions are created. I might partner with a corporate to create a ready-to-wear line, but within my own brand, I would like to keep it to heritage couture, because my job is to be, I am an influencer. My job is to be able to influence craft at its highest level so that craft does not lose its positioning. And there are enough in the market. It annoys me sometimes, but we are one of the most copied brand in the country. And I would like to say that because a lot of our clothes is handmade, a lot of the copies are also handmade. It doesn't matter what quality it is, but it
Right.
still creates a lot of livelihood and more power to that.
Sabya, Miss Mannat Kothari, no, sorry, Miss Mukta Hirawat would want to know that how important is a design degree in the success of a designer?
One of the designers that I admire the most and is one of the most creative and one of the most spectacular designers in this country is Anamika Khanna. She hasn't had a designer degree. She was a mother and a housewife who chose to pursue fashion and created her own label. You know, education can teach you formal things, but it's life that actually gives you the degree that you require to succeed. It could be anything. It could be business. It could be, you can go to an acting school, but still be a terrible actor.
Absolutely.
I think it's what life teaches you and how much you're willing to learn. And if you are born with that little unique voice with which you can tell a story that the world is willing to hear, a design degree is important. Of course, it you know what it does, it gives you discipline, but it does not give you the necessary skill sets to become a designer.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The school of life is where it's all learned, to be honest. My question to you both actually next, Pinky and Sabya, is I want to talk about digital and I want to talk about e-commerce and moving from brick and mortar to click. Pinky, my question to you is, you are a big buyer of couture. You of course you're also a patron of Indian Pret, young and old Indian designers. But how comfortable would you be, for example, buying couture online? How comfortable would you be to moving to being an online buyer from being?
Why not? I think I am going to be buying a lot of stuff online because I've already started, I keep buying a lot of gadgets and fashion and simple things on Instagram. There's a lot of things which keep popping up, a lot of shopping. See, for example, I need to buy a sari from Sabyasachi or an Abu Sandeep or a Manish Malhotra. I don't need to go and feel the fabric. I don't need to go through the texture because I know their quality. So if I like the way it looks in their ad, on the Instagram picture or their online picture, maybe I'll just order and buy it. Right?
Sure. And you
only a new designer, somebody who's trying to make their brand, I might think if it's a very expensive piece, then I might think about it. If it's not so expensive, that's okay. Let me take it. Let me just try.
Try it out. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I think.
Sabya, what about you? I mean, how seamless will it be for a bride who's getting married, is dying to wear a Sabya Ghagra or a lehenga, but can't fly down because she's an NRI bride and all her interactions with you are over a WhatsApp or a Zoom call? Does it take away from the tactileness of the experience? Tell me a little bit about this. Does this concern you, or you boldly feel that e-commerce will take over brick and mortar?
It really depends on the nature of your business and what you're trying to sell.
Yeah.
I don't think people are going to buy a very expensive diamond necklace on e-commerce without them actually wearing it and seeing it. It is many factors that come into play. Not everything is going to be e-commerce friendly, but Priya, we are Indians. I think we are the smartest people on this planet because we have something called jugaad.
Oh my God, I was just thinking that. I was thinking the one word you use to describe Indians is, we do the best jugaad. Nobody can do that better than us.
Can you understand how we converted WhatsApp into a business app? All our businesses happen through WhatsApp. So what I wanted to tell you was, and I'm a big jugaadu because, I think jugaad comes to people who have common sense.
Yes.
So I'll tell you two stories. Story number one was, when I first learned about Instagram,
yes,
I had no idea what Instagram was. I had no idea I'm a late entrant into Instagram. I had no idea what hashtag was because I'm a little bit of a technophobe. I was born in the 70s. I got my first smartphone when I was 25 years old. So I don't really have a great efficiency with technology. But my jugaad brain asked everybody a question. And I said, get out of here. Do you think that this is for free? I mean, when I post something, I don't have to pay. They said, no, it's absolutely free. That was the year when I was doing Couture Week in India. I said, okay, we will not do a Couture Week. I'm fed up of the front row politics. I will have an endless front row for every single person in the world by putting my show on Instagram. And ever since I've done that, I've not really done a fashion week because my customers know my quality. Like Pinky said, they know what the clothing represents. And I started selling, putting my clothes on Instagram. It almost became like a magazine, much to the horror of many people.
Right.
And secondly, Priya, when we are talking about e-commerce, Sabyasachi Official, my Instagram account is like a Jugaad e-commerce. People see the clothes there, they call up the stores, and like many of my girls, 40% of my business is in the US, and many of them don't actually fly down because you see, when you've built a brand with integrity and when people recognize your quality, they are willing to pay you the price. So what they do is they see a product on Instagram, they call up my store and they say, do you have this product? Then they do video calls, WhatsApp calls, they do Skype calls, and a product, and our people teach them how to take measurements, and a product is shipped to them, and we have very, very, very few returns or complaints. And so today, while many businesses have opened their stores, my stores are resolutely shut because we said, firstly, I think that when we say that we are going to sanitize our stores, there's no such thing because it's a virus. And I feel that one needs to be socially responsible towards the people who work for you and towards your consumers. I told everybody in my store that customers are going to feel safer if you close the store because they do not want to be, who wants to lose their life because they want to wear a new outfit? So we closed down our stores. And I said that if that policy has applied to my US customers, why can it not apply to my Indian customers? So all my Indian customers who are probably 20 feet away from my stores are WhatsApping my stores. The doors are closed and we are making contactless deliveries where the clothes are packed and they're sent, their drivers are sent, we give them a time, they are sanitized and they take the clothes back and there is no fear of contamination.
Wow, it's really, really interesting how necessity is the mother of all invention.
Absolutely. And a little bit of common sense and smartness.
Right. But Sabya, how will you keep improving customer relationships in this time? So of course, your Instagram account becomes the store window and then it becomes also the store. But how do you use social media or how do you use Instagram, Facebook, all your channels and platforms to engage and build newer customer relationships?
I think, more than just selling a product right now, what you need to do is engage with your customer to talk about your value systems, who you are, talk about authenticity. And Priya, this is a very important time where people are losing lives, they're losing money. A lot of people are sad. What we do is we counsel our customers, we become their friends. And it is very important to be honest with the consumer. And one of the reasons, I could have easily opened my stores and I would have said that, you're safe to shop. I know you're not safe to shop. We cannot be living in denial and saying that it's okay to go into a clothing store where somebody has tried the clothing and we can say that we have sanitized the clothing 100 times, but the virus does not go away. What we say that, it is okay if we lose business. It's okay if we don't sell too much clothes, but it's important for us to be able to protect the interest of our consumers because people have to understand something that like a business is not built in a day, a business does not die in a day. I have already decided that if this pandemic goes on for too long, I will shut down my brand for 6 months and hibernate and start again. There is no shame in it, but there is an absolute shame if you're being irresponsible. I think what brands need to do is brands need to be responsible with their consumers, their lives, their safety first. And, so a common question with a lot of girls are, Mr. Mukherjee, you don't understand, it's my wedding. And, I do not want my wedding to be a reflection of this pandemic. I want my photographs to look good. So if there are 25 people who are being called to the wedding, I will call one makeup artist who can do both hair and makeup. I will call one photographer who does not have an assistant, can do his own lights. But I just want some pictures for my memory and for the memory of my grandchildren. I understand that. And then she tells me that but how do I do my blouse fitting right? I said, sweetheart, safety pins. Tie a rope if it's necessary. Get a needle and thread and learn to stitch. Because every time we get in people from backward communities, which become a lot of our ecosystem into the industry, and they have no scope of social distancing, you are opening yourself to contamination. I said, if necessary, a lot of girls right now are wearing their mother's sari, but they want to be a Sabya bride, they're buying my jewelry because it's easiest to sanitize it. But I said that find a thing. If you can't just wear old clothes.
Sabya, don't freeze on me again. Defreeze. Okay, now you're defrozen.
I said it is very important for you to understand that it's your life at stake and preserve your life first.
Absolutely.
Everything else will come back.
Sabya, what do you feel corporates can do at a time like this? Can they come to the aid of designers and retailers? It's basically the same question I asked Pinky.
I think, Priya, corporates in this country are quite stupid. And I see the shock in your face, but I'm sorry. They should have come to the aid of designers a long time ago, because corporates need to understand something. I deal with a lot of corporates. I talk to a lot of them. And I think they all rely on data, and every corporate in this country wants to replicate something that already exists. Right. The first question that they ask you is, what is the proof of concept? But you have to create something new. You cannot be replicating somebody else's success. Look at what has happened in Paris. The government, the corporates together have created fashion as an industry, food as an industry. You go to Paris airport, you have warning signs that tell you that if you buy a particular French brand, if you buy a copy of a French brand, you can be prosecuted, you can go to jail, you can have to pay a penalty. I think corporates in this country need to understand what are the skill sets that this country represents, and be able to do healthy partnerships to be able to make them bigger, not just for the country, but for the world in general. Look at how smart Bollywood is. For an industry which people thought was completely disorganized, it became corporatized because people understood the pull of Bollywood.
Here's money.
But Sabya, I must add one thing. Bollywood, I think, has come down to earth with this pandemic. I was another friend of mine who's in Bollywood, and she was saying, I've become the photographer, I've become the makeup person, I've become the entourage, all that has gone down. So they've all come down to earth. And because even when I did events, even if you got one movie star, I think everybody would agree with me. There's like a 10 people entourage with them. All that is going to go now. So that's also another way of grounding everyone.
No, absolutely. But what I wanted to say, Pinky, was the fact that corporates and small businesses should come together to create exceptional businesses.
I agree completely. I completely agree. But I'm saying in corporates, if it's going to be a real estate business, a corporate of real estate, what are they going to do with this with fashion?
Armani homes.
This is India. How many Armani homes? How many people can afford Armani homes? You don't come down with their pricing.
No, 100%. But what I'm saying, corporates have the power of scale to be able to get prices down. Because
that's what I'm trying to tell you. Corporates themselves are in the sinking zone. Where are they going to help fashion?
But Pinky, I think if corporates are smart about partnerships with bigger distribution, with bigger investment, you see, we all know that price is a factor of scale. If scale goes up, price goes down. And something that really bothers me, because I was born middle class and it irritates me sometimes, is because we think the middle class doesn't deserve better. And we are always trying to make products cheaper and cheaper. But I always say that, give them a world-class product. It does not necessarily have to be a world-class price, but we can do something better. I am very happy to say that the collaboration that I did with H&M is going to give you very beautiful designs at a great quality, because they are being manufactured with the best export houses in the country from a great brand. And everything that we are producing in H&M is between the price range of 800 rupees to 10,000 rupees.
That's exactly. So for example, when Priya, you're talking about exhibitions, I think that's how the life of exhibitions came in. Because everybody could there are a lot of affordable things, right? Like a housewife, she could just go to an exhibition and sell. For her to market and put in a store, it's such a big process. To sell an exhibition, it's so much more easier. So same way, I know that's why this whole exhibition Zoom had increased.
Promote businesses. I say the same thing about sports.
Absolutely.
Promote things that are going to make your country a place of privilege for the world to see.
I agree. I couldn't agree more. I think this is all the time that we have for questions. I'm gonna now go hand it over to Ms. Jahnabi Phookan to ask the last question for this chat. But as always, Pinky and Sabya, whether it's offline or online or on Zoom or off Zoom, it's a pleasure and a delight speaking to both of you. And somehow each time I talk to both of you, I come away knowing something more and something intriguing.
And we both are always fighting.
So thank you for being such an amazing, subject matter and such amazing people to interview. I'm now going to hand it over to Ms. Phookan to ask the last question. And then I will be logging off because my 8-year-old has been signaling me violently from the other end of the Zoom saying, Mama, when are you coming?
But Priya, you are amazing. Thank you so much.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Priya,
absolutely my pleasure.
I just want to say something that it's so beautiful to be able to have this new environment of working from home. So I'm wearing a formal shirt and a bandi with a pair of pajamas.
Now that you said it, Sabya, please stand up and show us all your pajamas. No, but it was amazing, guys. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you, Priya.
I had a question for you as well, Priya.
Yes, yes.
Your husband back from Dubai? I heard.
Oh. It's a bit filmy that we've both been separated by this lockdown. It feels like we are war-struck lovers, at the other ends in 2 different countries. So I'm hoping that he can travel back here soon.
Yeah. All the best to that. That too will happen.
Thank you so much. Thank you for asking and for your concern. But Usha ji, if it's okay with you, I will switch off now. Thank you so much, everybody, for being a great audience. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Priya.
Thank you, Priya.
So I had wanted to just thank Sabyasachi and Pinky. All that you spoke about, the authenticity, the responsibility that we all owe our country. That's so important. Sustainability that you speak about, and how, especially in the wedding, Sabya, I just had my daughter's wedding in December last year, and she lives in Australia, but very conscious of the fact that we must show what is Assamese. So we tried our level best and kept a very sustainable wedding with all our local, and even our own people appreciated that. So I think that's what I'm learning from the young people nowadays. They have stepped forward to say this.
The younger generation is amazing.
The younger generation. They are amazing. So
They're amazing.
Yeah. So every little detail that my daughter and the bride, both of them put together, was wonderful. And what you must stress more and more that there's so much in our own country. We don't need those destination weddings or those foreign flowers, the orchids coming in, but we have everything here. So that is what only your voice will carry that message. At end of the day, it's the karigar. He must get his mazdoor. And what our government is also asking for, what Prime Minister Modi ji is talking about, that we have to be vocal about being local, take pride in being Indians. And only that way we can be self-reliant. I mean, I don't want to say like, but I really resonate with that.
I just want to add something here, which is very important. The best thing that a woman or a man can ever wear that can make them look good is not clothing, not makeup, not jewelry, not fancy watches, not fancy handbags, not hair dye, not a new haircut. It's confidence. And confidence comes from being who you are and accepting yourself for who you are.
Yes.
And once Indians start being confident about who they are going to be the most well-dressed people in the whole world.
I completely agree.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Thank you for that, Sabya.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jahnabi ji. And thank you so much. And we have a few more questions for you, Sabyasachi ji. And the first one is coming from Chairperson Usha Rani Manne for you and for Pinky also. Usha?
Yeah, thank you so much, Sabyasachi. Before I ask my question, I would like to share a small snippet of Treasured memory with you. Sabyasachi, you had given me the committee badge as treasurer 8 years ago. So having you with us this afternoon is extra special for me. My love affair with saris will never see a breakup. From the history behind each weave to the story of the actual weaver, I try to document everything. And there are many here who share the interest with me. I want to ask you, the whole experience of draping the 6 yards or textile in any form for that matter is literally an adrenaline rush moment. Now that we are mostly confined to homes, that feel good factor is sorely being missed. How do you think one should cope with this feeling?
Wear a sari for everything. I remember my grandmother wearing a sari to bed. And when she used to wake up in the morning, her pleats used to be intact. I don't know how she used to sleep. But, women in this country have fought wars in saris. They have cooked in saris. They've given birth to children in saris. And just because you're in a lockdown does not mean that you have to not wear a sari. If a sari makes, I think what a sari does is it makes us feel connected to a bigger network of people that we call family and home. And I would like to tell people that, the best thing that you can do is wear a sari and post a picture on Instagram every day and inspire more people to wear saris. Let more people wear saris, let more weavers get work. You should do a lockdown sari moment where you should say that at least for some time in your lockdown, every day you're wearing a sari for something.
And in Sabyasachi, in my
You
case,
remember, Sabya, you came to Hyderabad on Flow event and
Sam.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
I said the Mekhla Chadar of Assam as well.
Absolutely. Anything that's national culture.
Of Kerala and of the two-piece of Assam.
Absolutely.
Sabya, you remember a couple of years ago, you came to Hyderabad and we spoke about the importance of sari. You came for Flow Hyderabad. Right. And there was one girl who said, I'd rather buy a Zara pant and shirt because I can get it for $500. And I remember you had this huge conversation with her saying, my sister buys for 500 the petticoat and the blouse. And, it's my mom travels the world and she's always in her sari. So I guess...
I think cultural clothing is in many ways intimidating. I'll tell you something. I see a lot of these African women checking into the Emirates counter when I'm in Dubai, when I'm going to New York. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
And so they are in their national clothing. A lot of women don't have designer handbags, and they're carrying a lot of shopping and everything in plastic bags, which are tied together and everything. But when you see them, they're all checking in first class. So sometimes you can't even understand the power of a person because national clothing can be quite deceptive. Yeah. I remember Indra Nui saying that, whenever she has a very important board meeting, she wears a Kanjivaram. And I think national clothing gives you a sense of power, a stronger sense of identity, because you don't represent yourself, but you represent people at large. And I've always thought that, people, I'm not saying that because, a lot of people would probably think that I'm politically motivated because I run a clothing brand which happens to be Indian. But I've seen that, I've said it in many public interviews that when in doubt, I wear Fab India because it just makes me feel powerful.
Sabya, when I'm in doubt, I wear a sari. I went to Paris a couple of years ago for a Chanel fashion show and the dress code says formal and something in blue. So I said, I cannot match the women there in their evening gowns and dresses. So I wore an Abu Sandi blue sari and went with a lot of embellishments. I cannot tell you, a lot of people thought there's some royalty, some princess came from India because, all the glitter. And my picture was in New York Times. They didn't know who I was just because of my sari. I was just identified because of my sari. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you, Sabyasachi.
Thank you.
I have a question for Pinky. Of course, it is very personal. Pinky, I have never heard a no from you. Not just me, everyone who knows you has the same opinion about you. And we love you for it. But
thank you so much.
What is that special quality that makes you to lend your support so unfailingly every time?
I think it's a manufacturing defect. I don't know I don't know the spelling of no. I don't know how to say no. So I just feel that if I can, why not? And I think I'm very honored and happy that people love me so much. That's the way I am. I'm just made that way. Maybe it's my DNA.
Over to you, Priya, for the next question. Thank you.
Thank you, Usha. Past Chair Rekha Lahoti, she has a question. She had texted.
She's not there.
Okay.
Yeah, hi.
Oh, yeah, she's
Hi,
there.
Pinky. Hi, Sabyasachi. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
You know, it's been such an enriching session, and with our effervescent Pinky, our own, you know, and with Sabya, I mean, it was fabulous. There's no questions to ask because I think everything has been already answered, and I really enjoyed the session. Thank you so much.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay. Padma, you want to ask your question or has it been answered also? Padma Soni Reddy?
Yeah, hi. Hi, Sabyaji. Namaste.
Namaste.
So I'm an interior designer. I'm in the same creative field. I have a question. I'm a big fan of you and a proud owner of your creation too. My question is, how do you find working in fashion different today than when you started? Like in terms of...
It's a lot more organized. You know, when I started fashion 20 years ago, Calcutta had the only big designer, national designer from Calcutta at that point of time was Mona Pali. And we didn't have a fashion journalist in Calcutta. There was nothing that I could show as a proof of concept to my parents that, you know, if you study fashion, you can build a business. But right now there is a lot more ecosystem. We have fashion PR, we have Instagram, we have fashion weeks, we have manufacturing houses, we have buyers, we have fashion magazines, fashion journalism. So I think the industry has become a lot more cohesive, and it's easier to get jobs done right now.
I think I feel that we get more visibility right now.
100%. Communication has become so much more easier.
Yes. Thank you.
So one last question from Rashmi Doshi. Pranay, can you take her? Rashmi, you there? Can you hear us?
Yeah. A very good afternoon to everyone. Namaste, Mr. Mukherjee.
Namaste.
I'm Rashmi Doshi, and I'm an ardent fan of your show, Baajaa Bride. And we have seen, the overwhelming ways in which, you've brought tears to the eyes of your bride. You've given them such immense happiness. I wanted your take as to what your emotional journey was during the show.
You know, when I started Brand Baajaa Bride many years ago, when I was just doing the first season was a collective of designers. And then they came to me on the second season and they said that, would you host the show? I'd never really done television. I was not very comfortable because I'd done a lot of films, but I did films in the capacity of a costume designer. And I wasn't very comfortable sharing space on national TV. But then when I started working on Brand Baajaa Bride and I started coming across, a lot of customers, a lot of people who I would have never met otherwise, I started getting very overwhelmed by their stories. I quickly told NDTV Good Times that Brand Baajaa Bride should not be about hair and makeup. It should not be about clothing. You know, clothing is a backseat on that show. Because I say that, you know, women face such oppression in this country, and there is so much of stigma attached to weddings, and there are so much of oppression, there are so much of social politics that happens with a girl child and weddings. I say that let's talk about the stories of these girls. Let's talk about their inclusivity, their problems. We've had many girls who've come from many parts of the world. Some of them have come from very privileged sectors, from poor sectors, sports people, film actors, television actors, you know, people with disability, people with problems of inclusivity. And what we intend to do with Band Baajaa Bride is be able to tell their story. I'm just the boatman who takes them from one part to the other. It is actually the girl's story that makes it successful. And I've learned to take a back seat, because if you see the show, it's 70% of the time on Band Baajaa Bride is about the girl and 30% is about my brand. I am the producer of the show. And if I had my way, I'd keep Sabyasachi more and more invisible so that the girl's story could be told, because every story that any girl tells in India will reflect on some girl somewhere, and it gives a lot of girls, so there have been girls who've gone through sexual exploitation. There have been girls who have had no right to education. There have been girls who have been discriminated for being dark. There have been girls who people thought that they should not get married because they were too old. And these are problems that women face on a day-to-day. There have been women who have been remarried on the show. There have been women who have been married before, have divorced, or their spouse had died, and they are with the children who are getting married a second time. So we talk about a lot of things. We talk about intercaste marriage between Hindu and Muslims. The idea, at one point of time, we are going to also talk about gender inclusivity and probably homosexual marriages. But what we want to do is we want to make this show all about inclusivity and talk about stories that nobody was willing to talk about.
Thank you so much. You're doing a great job.
Thank you.
Priya?
So that brings me back. You have
our past president wants to ask a question.
Surely.
Can Pranay use spotlight? Vinita Bimbet.
So much. Sabya, I'm one of your biggest fans. And I'm not going to ask you a question because you have answered everything. I just want to say something to you. I have been watching Band Baajaa Bride, and, Flo has been in this women empowerment business for 37 years. Pinky was the 35th president, I was the 33rd, and Jahnabi is the 37th. And I'm telling you, Sabya, you have done more for women empowerment with that show than most women empowerment organizations could do. So hats off to you.
Thank you. I hope NDTV Good Times is watching this. I take this show very seriously, and we are trying to make it bigger and bigger. This is the 9th season, but this is a show that I do with a very strong mission, because my factory employs 75% women, and I have grown up with women because my Masis raised me, my mother raised me, and it irritates me. I won't even say it angers me to see the kind of discrimination that women face.
Yes.
And I think it's wonderful that we have been able to be given a platform of privilege where we can give back something. This brand has been single-handedly made by women, and it's an honor that I could do something for them.
We're so happy you do. And it's a beautiful program to watch.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Vinita. And thank you, Sabyaji, for putting so many things in context for us about humanizing fashion, creating brand India, and about change being a collective phenomenon. This is so wonderful. I'm sure it resonates with everyone, especially at a time like this when we need all the positivity that is, going around. So thank you so much. And on behalf of you, somebody wants to say something?
I'm sorry. I apologize for my grandson intruding into my webinar.
No problem. I have one last question for Sabyasachi.
Yes, Jahnabi, go ahead.
Sabyasachi, is that your business is run by the business dynamics are managed by your sister, is it?
It's run by my sister and by me and my father. The three of us run it together.
Okay.
But honestly, I do not want to give us the credit because we have a battery of very, very strong women who are single-handedly shouldering, whether it's women who sell my clothes, or we have a woman PR, Parina Thapar. We have women who head our manufacturing. We have women who head design, who head production. We also have a lot of wonderful men, because I don't want to appear a sexist here. But a majority of the people who run the business are women. And they're very, very strong women.
That's a lovely note to end on. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. you.
Absolutely. And for all the service that they are rendering, the selfless service that they are rendering, we owe a deep debt of gratitude to our healthcare workers. I'm sure you'll all agree. So on behalf of our guests today, we are glad to make a small donation to United Way, Hyderabad. And we're also thrilled to present to our guests a coffee table book, Blooms and Looms. It's a weave of, it's about ikebana and saris coming together. This is from our gifting partner, Pushpam Publications, and it comes from our past chair, Reddy. And the physical copies of both will be mailed to you soon, but you'll be able to see them virtually now. Pranay, can you play that?
Sure.
Over now to Senior Vice Chair Uma Chigurupati for the vote of thanks.
Namaste. Good evening, all. That's a very interesting, captivating, and memorable conversation. Lot of take-homes, responsible consumption, and very soon we are going to have celebrations. Let's hope so. An artist who believes that clothes should be an extension of one's intellect, who's known for his traditional, cultural, and social influences on his creations, keeping the aesthetics and enhancing the natural beauty, whose style is international with an Indian soul. Lot of girls dream of possessing at least one of his pieces of art and also would love to get married wearing one of his creations. Sabyasachi Mukherjee, your creations make people not just being noticed, they make them remembered. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing your views on so many things. Thank you. Pinky, it is always a pleasure listening to you. Your style of communication is simple, friendly, and with clarity. Thank you for making these wonderful programs happen. You have always set a new benchmark for programs. Thank you, Pinky.
Thank you so much, Uma. Thank you so much. Sabya, she makes the most amazing wine, but not that I drink the wine, but I know a lot of people love the wine.
And also I ran a half marathon in a sari. I would like to admit that also.
Okay, yes.
Aren't Indian women absolutely amazing?
They outbeat everybody.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Priya Tanna, she just left. The creative mind behind the Fashion Bible of India. I always feel her readings are intelligent, sophisticated, edgy, and fun. Today, her conversation too is very interesting, sensitive, and seamless. Appreciating her time. Thank you so much. Jahnabi, our National President of FLOW, thank you very much for your presence and also for setting the right tone for the program. I thank the Presidium, GB members, past presidents, past chairs for their support and encouragement. Thank you, RBC, our branding partner. Congratulations and thanks to my ever enthusiastic and innovative committee members for bringing out another wonderful program. Thank you, IT team, for the technical support, all the members, chairs of FLOW, and viewers for joining us. Before I end, I would like to add, this situation had slowed us. And I think it is making us to take a note of nature around us. Simple things like chirping birds, clear skies, blooms, these are all small things, yet beautiful pleasures of life. I think we have to enjoy every moment, whatever it is. So stay and stay healthy. Have a lovely evening. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Namaskar. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Sabya.
Thanks,
Isha. I have to leave now.
Thank you.
It's my grandson's time.
Thank
Bye.
you too. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much, Pinky. Thank you, Sabya.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All
of us, yes.
Yeah, Priya. Yeah, we have a concluding this.
Yeah. All of us at the Flow back office can't thank you all enough for encouraging us with your participation. It's your support that keeps us going. And there is a lot more coming your way in the next few weeks. So stay tuned to our broadcast on email, mobile, Facebook, and Instagram. Hope you all have downloaded the second number we shared with you last week. And for any assistance regarding your membership and to advertise in Flow Marketplace, our in-house team is always at your assistance. Before I conclude, I hand it over to Usha. I can see she wants to say something.
No, I want you to continue, Priya.
Okay. So thank you. I think all of our guests have, guest speakers have left us, but thank you for all the people who've joined us from across India. Thank you so much. Namaste.
Namaste.
Okay, so bye everybody. See you all next week. Stay
Bye-bye.
safe, stay healthy.